Howdy, folks. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you, have a bit of a Dungeons and Dragons video. And realistically, this one's going to be more focused towards. It's going to be kind of just a regular tabletop RPG video, but it's mostly focused in context with Dungeons and Dragons, because most games has this most seemingly dreadful thing, the most three dreadful words when it comes to tabletop gaming: roll for initiative. It seems like there's a lot of people who have issues with rolling for initiative, and it just seems like a lot of people are online in different forums frustrating or venting their frustration about how much of a pain in the butt it is to do initiative. And I don't understand why. Understand I've been gaming for just about 30 years now, something like that. I mean, I go all the way back to the old AD&D days, and actually, these are sort of the books I had. And I don't understand why people have issues with doing initiative. So let's just go with a simple baseline way that I do initiative. And maybe this will help people out with dealing with those three dreadful words. And it's actually really simple. It's actually two words. Uh, Group initiative. Just do your initiative by groups. Don't worry about more advanced breakdowns and things like that in combat. There's really no point. There is times where you're going to want to do that, but most of the time, a majority of the time, it's just easier to do some type of group initiative roll. Of course, a player from the group party of players rolls for the players, and then the dungeon master rolls for the creatures. Now, sometimes what I'll do is to get something even a little bit more advanced without doing individual initiatives is when I roll for groups, if I have multiple types of enemies, I'll break the different enemy types down into groups as well. So that's one way of doing this too, with still keeping it fairly easy. And that's kind of the issue, is I see a lot of people going for like individual initiative, or at least that's what it seems like, which I'm sure that's what the rules push. But back in the day, back in the AD&D days, for how advanced and how advanced the system was and how clunky it could be, group initiative was actually one of those things that was heavily pushed to simplify combat. And it was an optional rule, and it worked. And it really does work. And basically what you get is you get a group initiative, you roll your initiative, and then once the battle begins, it pretty much continues until either the players are dead, or the enemies are dead, or until someone retreats, whatever ends the combat. So realistically, the question at the end of the day, I'm sure a lot of people have on this one, is who rolls for initiatives? Well, I'll tell you how I deal with it. Now, first off, it's typically the fighters. The barbarians, the paladins, basically the characters that are in the front of the party. Say you're going down a dungeon, hallway, or something like that. You're probably going to have your fighter lead in the pack because the fighter has the most HP. And that may not be the case, but basically, whoever's leading the party, say if you got your scout or your rogue scouting ahead, and the rogue decides to initiate the combat, or he doesn't have time to maybe fall back to the party so that way somebody else could take point at that moment, the lead of the party at that moment. It could even be the ranger, in the sense of, if maybe the ranger, maybe you're kind of sort of setting up a pseudo ambush. You could have maybe the ranger rule the initiative, because the ranger, being an archer, more often than not, might initiate the combat instead of the fighters or the rogues. Sometimes, but rarely, it's the wizard that's going to be rolling the initiative. So basically, pick a player that in a sense is logical, and then have that player roll for the group of players. That's pretty much my go-to. And it really does simplify things because it's only one person that's doing the number crunching, that's figuring out what their initiative modifiers are and stuff of that nature. And then they're rolling. And then combat, you know, commences. And realistically, it's up to the DM at the end of the day on how to do this. But I'm just kind of pitching to you. It kind of seems like group initiative to me kind of sounds like something that's kind of fallen to obscurity. And realistically, that's all it is. It's actually really simple. Now, when it comes to ambushes, well, the ambushers always automatically go first. That's just an automatic give me. There's no initiative there. Now, with all that being said, is this perfect? Well, no, things rarely are perfect, but you know what? Roll for initiative anyway. Anyway, folks, I'm going to wrap the video up at that. Hopefully some of you all find it helpful and that you could use this for your D&D campaign or Star Wars D20 or whatever, other tabletop RPG that you play where initiative is something that you have to deal with. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully you all enjoyed this and have yourself a wonderful day.